Let's get started. There's lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, let's talk about COVID. As I said, Sheldon says, we're getting close to 3 months since the Supreme Court of Canada has ruled that the use of the Emergencies Act on the Freedom Convoy was illegal and removed the liberties afforded by the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Nobody's been arrested. No bank accounts have been seized. And the same people who did this are trying to do it again under Bill C-63 under the guise of protecting children. Yeah, they're absolutely going to do this. And they're going to try and bankrupt people. They're going to absolutely throw charges and monetary fines at people. Mark Friesen is at the end of this segment of Tabs because of the nonsense COVID fines that he's got that should be invalid. They should not be standing, but he's got to pay them or he's going to go to jail. So they're trying to do this with the law. They're trying to crush people using the law. And that's very, very concerning. People who have been proven in federal court to have violated your charter rights have no right to be doing this again. And Trudeau's use of the Emergencies Act was ruled unconstitutional. What happens now? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. That's racist to even ask that. How dare you? We're going to cut off your funding. Here's Jordan. What's his name? Representative Jim Jordan. And he's talking to Jordan Peterson about what happened in Canada. And Jordan Peterson says it's coming. It is absolutely coming here. And you are going to be taken like the United States is going to be taken along in this ride. It is coming. Be weary because this is happening. Here we go.
Dr. Peterson, I want you to talk about the debanking issue we saw so much of and how that was, particularly, I guess, with the truckers and how that's, because I see it coming. I see it coming here and it frightens me. I want you to talk about what took place in Canada and if it in any way impacted you.
Well, there was essentially a working class protest against the extensive length of the COVID lockdowns. And one consequence of that was that Canadians who participated, even by donating to the protest and even by donating small amounts to the protest, had their bank accounts seized in consequence of a collusion between the banks and the government that was extrajudicial, that was recently deemed unconstitutional, despite the fact that we don't have strong First Amendment claims. So this happened. The government is currently maneuvering in Canada to make the possibility of such collusion a certainty across multiple actual and potential domains of so-called harm, particularly in relationship to government-defined hate. Yes, this is absolutely coming. And it's facilitated by the kinds of advancements in technology that we talked about today.
Yeah.
Yep. We're carrying around our prison device. You've got to check in with your cell phone, man. Without a cell phone, you're nothing. Interesting. During COVID, yesterday we learned that there was a take it or fake it mandate, and it was Lion Advocacy, and he shared a link, and I didn't read much of the link. They were just talking about this mandate that was take it, which is you take the jab, or you fake it, which is you pretend to take the jab and you tell everybody that you took the jab, or you're going to get charged. And like being charged militarily is not something to take lightly. It's a big deal for your career and all sorts of stuff. People will say, oh, well, you would be getting a promotion, but this is a big deal. So here is Brett, and he's talking about being given the option of take it or fake it. If you fake it, think about how much you have to bend reality to live with yourself. Say you fake it and somebody else in your platoon doesn't and gets charged and released and vilified as an anti-vaxxer. Meanwhile, you didn't take it. You guys are exactly the same, except you bent the knee and pretended and he didn't. And now he's got the consequence and you are, still allowed to pretend, fake it, right? Is that something that your employer should be offering you? Is that the situation your employer should be putting you in? That seems batshit crazy to me. And I don't think that I would be able to tolerate it. But I mean, you also have to agree with somebody who's leveling those accusations. But I mean, in this situation, if you agree to bend reality and say, I'm going to pretend that I took this thing to keep my job, and then your associate didn't, and he suffers consequences and you don't, I don't know that that's a far leap for you to look at that and go, that's negative. Whereas if somebody accuses you of something and you don't agree that you've done that thing, you don't feel bad because they're accusing you. Maybe you say, like, listen, we should get together and we should discuss this because I don't see that the same way. We experience things differently. But maybe they're accusing you of something completely, like accusing you of being an anti-Semite or something, or a racist or something like that. It's like, well, that's a buzzword that has absolutely no meaning. So You're going to have to try again. Be more specific. Okay. Here's Brett Campbell. Take it or fake it.
I don't know if anyone here has heard my story, but I blew the whistle on the fake vaccine taking. So they threatened to get me to fake it, take it or fake it, and I decided to not take it, and I blew the whistle on that, and obviously I received the consequences of it. So.
Wait, Brett, you just said something really curious there. Take it or fake it. They were asking you to fake it.
I think what happened was there because I knew what was going on and I didn't want it, maybe to keep me in or to keep the numbers up or to keep me quiet. They wanted me to fake it, and I guess the doctor was ordered to do that. He was ordered to get me to fake take it, and that kind of pissed me off. I mean, imagine taking that order from someone and then, going along with it. That probably should have woke people up right there. But
Right.
Right after I heard him say that you need to fake this or we're going to charge you, I knew that I obviously had made the right decision. And obviously now we know, 2 years later that it was the right decision.
That would be a wild situation to be in. You fake this, or, we're going to come down hard on you like a ton of bricks. But isn't faking it wrong? Isn't it morally ambiguous at the very least? If not completely obviously wrong, isn't it just like a little bit? Doesn't that tug on your red flag strings? Brett is reporting on Mark Friesen, and he says during COVID-19, the tyrannical government imposed unscientific lockdowns that were meant only to quash opposition. Mark Friesen, a patriot who took action and for that has to pay 11 tickets ranging from $2,800 to $10,500, or he will be imprisoned. He needs our help. And so here's the Give, Send, Go. Link is in the description. And $2,000 to $2,535 has been raised so far. So if you can support Mark, send some cash his way, because holy smoke, right? But again, these tickets are invalid. Everything done by the government caused harm. And these fines are meant to punish people who pointed that out. And he shouldn't have to pay them. He shouldn't have to pay them. And so this is the same thing as Julian Assange being in Belmarsh. He shouldn't be there. This is the same thing as the Coots guys being locked up, and the guys who were free, I think they had to admit guilt, had to take a punishment and say like, yes, I did something wrong. The government engaged in bad faith and lied to its citizens about vaccines, about the dangers of COVID, about what they knew, about all sorts of things. And now they're punishing the citizens who stood up and said, you know what, you guys are full of it. And no, we're not going to do this. It's wrong what's happening. And why can't we stop it? I really don't know. I don't have a good answer for you, because it seems like we should. If you ask people, I think they would think that we have a government that believes in the rule of law. And if you asked, what does the rule of law mean? It means that everybody in the country, all the citizens in the country are governed by the same set of laws, whether you're an 18-year-old idiot or a prime minister. If you break the law, you would be treated in the same way. The law is blind, or justice is blind. The law is blind. The law is certainly blind these days. Justice is blind. And so if those are the tenets that we're operating under, or people believe that we're operating under, they're shocked to find out that we're not. And when people who commit crimes against their citizens are allowed to continue, how do you restore confidence in the government? Because there is no confidence in the government right now. How do you restore a government for the people? Do you have to go through a full revolution? Can you stop can you stop whatever's happening right now, the Great Leap Forward, or a cultural revolution? Can you stop a cultural revolution, to directly quote James Lindsay? And the answer that I've come to, the conclusion that I've come to, is I have no idea. I hope that we can. And it seems one of the things that I'm trying different than I've been trying before is based on that video that I've been watching, the How to Stop a Social Cultural Revolution. And James Lindsay talks about how if you point out the problem, if you point out what the person's doing, the provocation, and explain why they're doing it, it loses power. So I've been trying to point out that the Israeli pro-Palestinian anti-Israel protests are the same as the Black Lives Matter protests. And how they're emotionally investing and how that emotional investment blinds people to how it's being weaponized, how that protest is being weaponized against Canadians. So I'm trying to explain that to people as much and as often as I can. And the amount of pushback that I get is so unbelievable. I think it's really interesting. Like, I get people who watch this show who tell me that I'm wrong or trying to tell you what to think, which I don't think so. I'm just trying to highlight things that I think. And if you agree with me, great. And if you don't agree with me, great. Well, we can discuss it. But I think my whole premise is like, you should do your own research if you find one of these stories interesting. But I think that it's incredible that we have a situation where the government has been allowed to get away with all of this criminality, and people are more worried about people being mean to one subset of people in Canada, or more worried about the Israel-Gaza situation, or more worried about Black Lives Matter, right? Like, we've got an economy shut down and people not allowed to go to work because you're not allowed to gather, but you can go get together for Black Lives Matter. How does that make any sense? And people who were talking about that were vilified, like they didn't care about Black Lives Matter. Like, holy smoke. We're missing the forest from the trees, people. And I've talked about this a bunch before. So it's just really interesting to me how we are. I think if you talk to people one-on-one, they would have a very specific expectation of the world. And yet we're living in something that is like directly counter to that. And people don't seem to be able to reconcile that or move to stop it. And they may suss out that something's wrong, but figuring, like, Julian Assange doesn't belong in jail. How do we fix that problem? The Coots guys don't belong in jail. How do we fix that problem? The Diagolon guys fixed that problem. They did. They fixed that problem for two of them. So the Diagolon guys took action, man. So, I mean, they don't watch my show much. But that's okay. And I have respect for those guys. Like, those guys actually do stuff. Rubber hits the road stuff. Like, those guys are the guys who go out and practice shooting. Those guys are the guys who have homesteads and like, they're canning and they're doing the things that are proactive for preparation for what looks like an inevitable collapse. But it seems like it's been an inevitable collapse for 20 years. Either the fiat currency or whatever, right? And I mean, if you look at the late 90s as well, Waco and what the government was doing there, going into compounds and all the rest of it, like, there was some crazy, crazy stuff happening. So people were legitimately concerned. Okay, I'm getting off track, but let's get back. Let's talk about Arrive scam. $100 million. Criminality. Why are they allowed to hand out money like this? What is happening to the country? $107 million handed out to GC Strategies. If I had $107 million, this show might be done from the beach. It might be done from a beach somewhere. I'm just telling you. I would probably still do the show if I had $100 million because I like doing this show, believe it or not. I really do. But if I had $100 million, I might not still be in Canada. I have to be honest with you, because things look pretty dicey here. Because if you have $100 million and you say something like, that man's not a woman in Canada, you might go to jail, right? Like Andrew Tate style. Holly Doan says, two-person consulting firm, GC Strategies, based in a private home in Woodland, Ontario. I think I'd move, maybe Woodland's really nice. Received a total of $107.7 million in federal contracts, highest figure confirmed to date. I find what occurred deplorable. Comptroller General Roche Huppe. Sorry, I'm probably getting his name really wrong. Here is a reporter asking Justin Trudeau about it. Notice how Justin Trudeau's just as outraged as you are. He can't believe this happened under his watch with his people that he put in place. Those people need to go to jail. Unbelievable. He doesn't take any responsibility is my takeaway from this whole question answer exchange. Here we go.
How do you explain how GC Strategies, a two-person Ottawa IT firm, received $100 million in federal contracts, and why was its security status only suspended yesterday?
Obviously, this is an unacceptable situation. We have significant questions, as do all Canadians, for the public servant processes that allowed for this to go forward this way. That's why there are ongoing investigations. There will be consequences and accountability for anyone found breaking the law. And we need to make sure that anyone, particularly who profited from a once-in-a-century pandemic where everyone was working hard to save lives and protect people, to line their own pockets or to profiteer from it, that there be consequences for them, and that's what we're ensuring.
Where's Dr. David Martin when you need him? Acutus? if Justin Trudeau owns shares in Acuitas, he profiteered from every shot. And so, is he covered in his remarks? No. So it's interesting to me as well, when he does stuff like that. So the question was more specific. How did these guys under your government's watch get $100 million for sole source contracts, or multiple sole source contracts that added up to $100 million? How did that happen? And then he tries to take the high road. So he reframes the question to being generally about this, terrible situation we all as Canadians find ourselves in. And he says, as the leader, I'm going to really look into this, blah, 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 blah. It shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have happened. If you were worth your salt at all, it wouldn't have happened, right? Because you would have had an idea that, it wouldn't have happened. For various reasons, it wouldn't have happened. And so Justin Trudeau answers the question he wants to ask and not the question asked, right? And that's usual. That's the Liberal tap dance. Leanne says, welcome to the team, Jamil Givani, and congratulations on your decisive victory. Your message to Justin Trudeau couldn't be any clearer. Justin and the Liberal elites better get used to losing by historic margins. I look forward to working with you to bring it home. Is bring it home like Build Back Better? Think about it. Jamil is saying, we sent a message. He says we sent a message to Justin Trudeau. This is Aaron O'Toole, the former leader of the Conservative Party. This is his pretty safe seat riding. Okay? If it was a Conservative seat before, it's a pretty safe Conservative seat now. If PPC won, that would be a message to Justin Trudeau and to a whole bunch of other people. But I don't think that the Conservatives holding their seat sends any message. I think it's just like, yeah, this was expected. But here's Jamil Givani saying this is a message.
We set out to send Justin Trudeau a message, and I think we were successful. Durham wants Pierre Poilievre to be the next prime minister.
Yeah. I think Durham wants to be able to afford food and gas and doesn't want to think that if they say something like that man's not a woman, that the police are going to kick down their door any minute and take them to the gulag for wrong think, right? And to get their caught up COVID boosters and all the rest of the injections that they'd refused up to that point. Because I have no doubt that that's what they do. Welcome to the gulag. You've got to be vaccinated to be here, and you're not allowed to not be here. So here's your vaccine, right? I'm waiting for it. That's going to happen. Andy Lee says, that thing we told you wasn't happening is happening. Quote, the RCMP announced today that it seized over 10,000 prescription pills in British Columbia over the last 3 months, including a significant amount of hydromorphone and morphine diverted from government-funded safer supply programs. Safer supply doesn't exist. It's a poison. It's a poison. Break the Needle says thousands of diverted. Yeah, it's the same thing I just read. So it's a drug bust, and the safer supply, government supply, that means if you're a criminal and you think to yourself, I am going to nefariously get my hands on some product. Where is the cheapest place I can get product? I saw Breaking Bad one time, and they were going to steal a train load of some activating agent for the meth they needed. So, it was a contrived reason to get them to use different different sciencey skills. So the train stopped, and they had a container, and they had to transfer the whole thing to the container. And part of the discussion was, how much is this all going to cost? And they were like, if we buy it, it's going to cost, just this exponential amount of money, and it's going to put our operation on the radar of the police and whoever else would be watching this product that goes into meth. But if we steal it, we get it for, the cost of the operation. So these sciencey things we have to buy, and the storage container and stuff, we'd have to buy them anyway to store this stuff. But the cost was a part of the equation. So if you're a criminal and you think to yourself, where can I get some morphine pills? I need some morphine pills. You call up your pharmacist buddy who works for the Canadian government. And you're like, listen, man, how many morphine pills do you think you can get? Do you think you can get more? Do you think that you could lose them? Where's the chinks in the armor here? Where's the opportunity for me to get morphine for free, right? And I'm sure they figured it out because the RCMP busted them, right? And so that seems like bad. That seems like a bad outcome. That seems obviously that these criminals are going to target this program that's meant to give free drugs from taxpayer money. So we paid for the drugs. The criminals stole the drugs, and they profited from our money that's buying drugs for some reason. It's not a good, their justification for the purchase of drugs, you wouldn't want addicts to die from an overdose because they got drugs from China, wouldn't you then want to just encourage them not to have any drugs? Like, don't buy those Chinese drugs. Here's some Canadian drugs. Like, oh, way better. Thanks. But also the Canadian drugs aren't better because a lot of people graduate from the safer supply drugs to the harder stuff, which is Chinese, as far as I understand it anyway. Further government grab bag stuff. Andrew Lawton's reporting, the trial of Tamara Litch and Chris Barber started in September. It was supposed to last 16 days. There's still no ending in sight. Absolutely ridiculous. They don't have anything. They can't charge these people they can't convict these people, and the public won't have it. And so they're trying to create a situation, and probably C69. They're probably, oh man, they're C63, the free speech one. They're trying to create a situation where they have the criminals. They just have to make the crime fit the criminals, and then they can go ahead with this. But it's like counseling people to commit mischief. Come on, like having this trial ongoing is part of the punishment. These people are regular Canadian patriots, and like I was saying at the beginning of the show, they were caught up in government action that was illegal, and so continuing to prosecute these people seems insane. Like do they have standing? Can they even do this? It doesn't seem rational to me, right? Like the government acted illegally, the police acted improperly in a whole bunch of situations, and Tamara Litch is the one, and Chris Barber are the ones on trial right now. Like it seems not right. Here is Financial Post, and they say, why almost everyone is wrong about racism. I've said for years, like, Canada's not a racist country. And I mean, when I began this show, it was one of my jokes, like, everybody's saying you're racist. And I would look behind me. I'm like, oh, you're talking to me? I'm racist? And now they've turned it into anything at all. Everything is racist. It's ridiculous. Like I said something about the potato face Justin Trudeau. Are the thought police coming for people who compare people to vegetables? Because, asking for a friend, because I call Justin Trudeau a potato face Justin Trudeau all the time. And somebody replied to me and said, if he was Jewish, that would be anti-Semitic. And I was like, what is it? Are you kidding me? Everything these days, everything. So they're turning racism into something that really wasn't a problem until they made it a problem. Before that, it was something that people noticed and made movies about and talked about. And it was secondary, probably thirdary. I don't think that's a word. Anyway, in racist Canada, the Financial Post says, people of Japanese and Korean ancestry wouldn't have higher than average incomes or professional status, which they do. Like making a racist joke like the Chappelle Show, that's not a reason to shut down society. If you have a situation, and even in this situation, I don't even think that it would be racist. And what to do about it would be your own personal thing, not reshaping society to meet your crazy desires. But if there was a situation where Japanese or Korean people or black people or whatever race of people was being like crushed by employment or, subjugated or something to that effect, I don't know that the state realigning itself to deal with that problem is a realistic solution. Possibly the person who's having the problem should examine what they're doing and then change what they're doing. Like, right? There's a lot of situations where people are claiming victimhood when really it's their own either lack of understanding or their own lack of ability or their own lack of commitment or whatever it is that's creating the problem. It's not society at large. It's they're not committed to the outcome that they want or whatever it is. And so they don't get what they want, but it's not racism, right? And now every day, everything's about racism. Calling somebody potato face is anti-Semitic. Give me a break. It's not happening. I mean, but everybody cries racism now, right? And we've got government employees who only talk about Islamophobia, and government employees who only talk about anti-Semitism. Why are we paying these people? Like big salaries, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, big salaries. Why? For nothing. To stoke racial division? For nothing. It doesn't make any sense. Pierre Poilievre, let's talk about money. And he says, Trudeau will hit small businesses with a massive carbon tax hike on April 1st, while cutting their long ago promised rebates he never actually delivered. No surprise from a man who called our small businesses tax cheats. Common sense conservatives will axe the tax for everyone. So, man, I hope so. But again, like I was saying yesterday, I don't think that Pierre Poilievre is a win condition. I think Pierre Poilievre is a stall condition. So James Lindsay, again, sorry, I'm referencing him a lot, but I listen to him a lot when I'm washing dishes because it's a very coherent story. He's not even that great a speaker, but he's very organized and the story kind of flows in a good way. So I'm always entertained. But James Lindsay was saying that, hold on, let me refresh my memory here. If you can't beat them, then stalling them is almost as good because they have this on a timeline. So they want it done by 2030. But if they can't get it done by 2030, it gets more complicated. And if they have to rebrand, it gets more complicated. It's a win, even though it doesn't look like a win. And one of the things that he says a lot is the right is not good at celebrating wins. The right is not good at even recognizing a win. So a stall would be a win condition according to James Lindsay, and one we should celebrate, even if it's not a wholesale win. But I fear in a situation with Poilievre that he'll cut carbon taxes, people will feel a release of pressure and feel like, oh man, we're getting our old Canada back, and then he's going to build 15-minute cities. Like I feel like it's a bit of a bait and switch. So I feel like if one thing is not a big pressure, then the other thing is going to become a big pressure. And don't get me wrong, I want Canada to do as well as possible. And if that's under Poilievre and he surprises me and is great, then great. I'll be happy because that'll be the fastest route to Canada being back to normal that we can take, right? But I don't think that that's going to happen. But I'd love to be wrong about it. But I don't think it's going to happen, okay? And even Bernier, there's going to be 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. If you got a person in who actually wanted to genuinely really juice Canada and really, really concentrate on making Canada great, there's going to be time. There is going to take time to unwind all of these terrible programs because there are people who rely on them and you don't want to throw them off a program in the middle of delivery, et cetera, because it's going to harm them. You could do it in a different way so it doesn't hurt, right? You can take time to do that, right? You can unwind the milk industry over 6 years. You don't have to do it in one. So you don't harm people who've invested in it, right? There's a way to do it that's humane. It's going to take time. And it's just frustrating that fighting so hard for a stalemate, fighting so hard for a stall, that's it? Is that a win? Here's Jagmeet Singh's wife. Really? Amazing Zoltan says, while Canadians struggle to put food on the table or to keep a roof over our head, the NDP is proposing an excess profit tax on grocery stores. Jagmeet Singh's wife posts TikTok videos of her bedazzled gold and diamond jewelry, all paid for at the taxpayer's expense. I don't know if it's paid for at our expense. Is Jagmeet Singh buying this or are they borrowing it? She's like a influencer, right? Somebody's sending her. When you see celebrities on the red carpet, they're not wearing their purchased Dior or fashion-y name stuff. The stuff they're wearing is given to them, lent to them by a fashion designer who wants to sell clothes because their celebrity's been seen in their clothes. Right? And so she's an influencer. It's the same thing. Pretty soon I'm going to be wearing bedazzled jewelry on my face. Don't you forget it. Not really. But here's Jagmeet Singh. One of the things that really bothers me as well is the videos. It's very millennial. It feels immature to me. It feels childish almost. Like you don't get what the point of this whole thing is. Narcissistic. That's what it is. It feels like narcissistic. Okay. And a lot of millennials do this. A lot of people do this. This whole thing, this whole motif, this is a no for me. Here we go.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I don't know, man. I don't think I could do a video of me getting dressed in sparkly things. I'm not a woman, so thank goodness, right? I'd be a terribly ugly woman. But I couldn't do this. I could do this seriously as a post 30-year-old person. If I was 25, right? And going out to the clubs, maybe I could get behind this, or you're getting married or something like that. But if this is a Tuesday, what is happening, man? I just don't put that much, oomph into I've got my hoodie and my over hoodie. It's fine. The food professor, let's talk about that. I just can't get into the TikTok and the look at me, I'm so great, I'm so blah, 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 blah. The whole thing seems just so contrived and narcissistic. I can't get into it because it seems like a waste of time. I'm sure there's a bathroom to clean or some dishes to do. And I'm not even talking oh, you have to do that. I'm I would be wasting my time. I've got stuff to do. I've got a dishwasher to empty. I do the dishes. I clean the bath. I have bathrooms that I clean, right? And so and I do that at specific times in the day. And if I'm sitting there with a TikTok video, I mean, I do this video, and I don't feel guilty about this video, but if I was sitting there with a TikTok video being like, oh man, how many times do you have to smile to get it right? I tried to do a selfie once, and it did not work out well. My smile was totally like, I can't even, because I'm genuinely smiling. I can't do how bad the fake smile was, but it was a very obviously fake smile. And I thought, this looks dumb. Why do people do this? Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful